everybody. I'm Rory with Aila Health, here today with Jameisha Prescott, who's a lupus warrior and chronic illness advocate. You can find her at You Look Okay to Me on Instagram. She runs an amazing blog about how to live and thrive with your chronic illness, and also explains some of the ups and downs that you experience as well. We're really excited to have you here today. Thanks so much for joining us. For the folks who are just meeting Jameisha for the first time, would love to kind of hear a little bit about your background, where you're from, you know, what you do in your day-to-day, and just a little bit more about your personal story. So I'll kick it over to you.
Thank you for having me, first of all. Really appreciate it. As you so brilliantly introduced me, my name is Jameisha. I am 25 years old. I'm South London girl. Grown up here, pretty much stayed here. My family are Caribbean descent, and I'm currently working as a video journalist for BBC Africa. And then on the side,
Oh, cool.
Video content about chronic illness for a platform called You Look Okay to Me, which I made while I was at uni. And yeah, the idea for that came after I was diagnosed with lupus in 2014, which sort of set the tone for a lot of other things, essentially.
Maybe you could tell us a little bit about what that diagnosis journey was like for you. Like, when did you kind of first started noticing symptoms? When did it become something that was you knew you kind of had to investigate further and realize it was something a little bit more serious?
It's always weird because when you look back, you think, "Wow, that probably showed up earlier than I actually thought it did," you know. But I would say I was conscious of feeling not quite right when I was 16 to 18 years old, like that.
Oh, wow.
I know at the end of high school, and then in the UK, you finish high school at 16, and then you do this thing called sixth form, which is in between high school and university. And so during that period, I went to like a really artsy place. And there I just found my health just getting, worse. I lived around the corner from the place. I can literally see it from my window. And I'd be late every day because I'm oversleeping, just couldn't get up. I'm running out of breath when I'm walking up the stairs. Like, all of these weird things are happening, and I thought it was my fault. So I started working out more, eating vegetables, which I never did, and all of these things because I thought I did it to myself. And then even at the peak of health, I had a massive flare up. And so then that's when I was like, okay, this is not me, this is something else. So I started investigating, trying to figure it out. And as everyone's story is quite similar, you get the doctors saying, you're totally fine, just take some vitamins, just
Right.
vitamin D, you'll be all right, whatever. And then one time I kind of just had enough. So I did my own research and sort of thought, okay, look, there's like 5 things I think I could have: arthritis, lupus, fibromyalgia, Lyme disease. And there's always a fifth, but I can never remember the 5th one. Chronic fatigue syndrome, one of those 5. And so I kind of went with that information to be like, okay, it could be one of these. I think I have. Can you help me? And then can we go from there? And the doctor was a bit more responsive in that approach, thankfully. Because they're not always.
Kind of did some of the self-triaging for the physician.
Right. I know they tell us to. They're like, Google's not your blah, blah, blah. I know they tell us that, but it helped me a lot. And rather than diagnosing myself, it was, hey, would you like to explore these options with me? So I got referred to a rheumatologist, and interesting enough, the first rheumatologist I saw was excellent, and she immediately looked at me and was like, I think you have lupus. Like, that's what that looks like to me.
Oh, really? You had the physical, like you had physical presentation of symptoms, or she just looked at your labs and kind of could tell?
I mean, I had a mild rash. This is the thing. Like, I didn't really have anything physically. She just had a hunch. I think she's just good at her job. So when she looks at someone, she doesn't know for sure, but she just looks at the shape of my hands and she's like, I don't know, there's something, I think it's lupus, but let's check everything. So she did all the bloods, like so many, did the whole process. And I saw a different rheumatologist after that. Like, I'd never saw her again. And this person was like, yeah, because of your lupus. And I'm like, oh, hold on, I never had that whole grand moment. Hey, slow down.
Yeah.
But then I saw that lady again and she completely changed her mind. And she said, actually, I don't think you have lupus anymore. I think you have a mental health condition that's causing all of this, depression or stress. I think you need to see a psychotherapist and you need to take antidepressants. And she completely had changed.
Ignored everything that you had heard before and what you were actually experiencing. And I think we hear that from a lot of people, right, in the chronic illness community. I know I've been told to have a glass of wine and relax, which is not the best. Some days it's good medicine, some days not the
Yeah.
best medicine. But I think being dismissed like that, especially as women, I think there was definitely that
Yes.
added challenge. And so, what
Yeah.
would you say, I guess, to people who are in this? I think a lot of people who aren't even at the rheumatologist phase, right? They're experiencing this with their PCP or their general practitioner who aren't as familiar with these signs and symptoms. Like how would you recommend people to kind of advocate for themselves if they know something in their gut is just not quite right?
It's hard to say, because obviously everyone's got different like sort of doctors, and it depends on it will depend on if that person's willing to work with you. But the things I tend to say are, take someone to your appointments. It's hard now during COVID, obviously a lot of hospitals don't allow it at the moment, but
Mm-hmm.
hopefully when they, I'll start again because my door on it's gonna, okay, hopefully when they do allow people to kind of assist people to their appointments, bringing an advocate is really helpful. I know that helped me.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what ended up getting me officially diagnosed in October, which was after that woman's reversed the diagnosis, is the second opinion. I just was like, I'm not going to accept that. I know there's something not quite right. You've ended my journey here. I'm going to try somewhere else. And I got referred to
Right.
another. So sometimes that's possible. If you can, try get a second, third, fourth opinion as well. Um, Write everything down. All of these things are
Yeah, you talked about that earlier, right? Like about how you can document all of the different symptoms that you're experiencing and
right.
how, they're changing over time. Was there anything particularly helpful for you in terms of kind of seeing how these different symptoms were correlating with one another or?
So I think for me at that time, obviously back in 2014, I was literally just writing it on a Word document and dating, like so dating, writing
Mm-hmm.
symptoms, pain out of 5. I do like a pain scale out of 5 rather than 10 because it's a bit easier for me. And then
Mm-hmm.
like I would just look at it myself. So I mean, your
Kind
tool
of like
for
a quantified selfer, kind of figuring out, okay, what's my normal range? When is it going above or below?
yeah, and also like if you're experiencing the same things for various days, you're basically copying and pasting. And then when that stops, you can look at that like list and be like, okay, it stopped here, and then it had a break here. Like you can start to see for yourself how patterns start to form. Obviously, you have the app that you're building, stuff like that now, because I didn't really see those things back in the day, makes that stuff a bit easier to visualize for other patients. Whereas for me, it was literally a Word document. So
Right. Yeah. Trying to bring it a little bit more high tech. And so it's just a
yeah,
little easier to share and kind of
lots of stuff.
visualize in graphs.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that's ultimately right. We're responding to that need, right? Because most
yeah.
people are keeping paper journals or Word docs, like you said. So, how can we integrate it as an easier part of everyday life so
Yeah.
you can start to track those things and see what's causing flare ups? I'd say, one of the other things I just kind of want to switch gears around just like maybe the emotional toll, if you feel comfortable talking about it, like how has it impacted you? I mean, you have a great attitude every time I talk with you, but I know that there are days where it is challenging to kind of live with these symptoms and these flare ups. And so, what has been kind of in your toolkit to get through it?
I think some of the things I had to do was change the way I speak to myself and the way I view myself.
I
I
love
was really
that.
proud of myself early on. I was very into this hustle culture, get it done, put your head down, blah, blah, blah. And what that meant is I was really hard on my body and was getting frustrated with it that it's not performing in the way it's like misbehaving in a way. And there was almost
Mhm.
a dissonance between myself and my body. It's like we're separate things, and my body is something that's doing it to me, ruining my life in a way. Like that's how I saw it. And I
Wow.
realized actually, if I work with it and I have patience for it and be like, it's actually trying its best and it's trying to keep me alive and it's struggling. And that is you, is part of you. You are, your body as well. It allowed me to be better for my mental health so that I wasn't getting so frustrated and I had a negative image of myself that kind of lessened. I'm not saying that's a constant. So also acknowledging that you're not always going to constantly feel like that. There's some days where I still get frustrated, but just
Mhm.
being aware of it and then kind of having more positive self-talk, like just saying you're trying your best you can. And all of that is actually very powerful. I didn't think it was at first, but actually how you speak to yourself is very important, and accepting help and actually telling people like, but also allowing yourself to feel what you feel at the moment and not covering up with, oh, okay, let me just be happy,
Let
like
me
you.
just fake it. Yeah.
doesn't help either.
Yeah, no, awesome. I definitely think, I mean, that's a reminder for everyone, right? It's especially women who do get, down on themselves, right? And are told to just kind of struggle through things. Like, I think that's great advice. For someone who's just starting out on their kind of diagnosis journey, I've talked to people who they've been struggling with this for like 10 years sometimes. What are things that you would recommend, who aren't getting the relief, I guess, of meeting that rheumatologist and getting someone who can just kind of give them that satisfaction of, at least I know now what it is and I can start to treat it. Like, how would you recommend people deal with that phase of their journey? If you
Yeah.
have anything to comment on.
That phase of the journey is very difficult. I was, luckily I wasn't really on it that long in comparison to other people. But talking in communities, just because you might have a hunch that you have something, right? You might not know the name, but maybe it's like a digestive issue. You don't know if it's IBD, IBS, or whatever else. But talking to people that maybe have those things, just because you don't know if you have it yet, it's still helpful because you're talking to real human beings. You're not doing the Google search all the time, having
Mhm.
conversations with people that might have like similar symptoms, and then you're like, wow, that still I think is very valuable. I know in my early days most of these people were online because I didn't know anyone with an autoimmune disease
Right.
at the time, but I spoke to people with lupus and arthritis, and even though I didn't know I had it yet, it was still very, very helpful and comforting to know that there are people that still felt like me, even if I didn't know exactly what I had. There was still
Yeah.
a bit of a solidarity there, and I think that probably is a really helpful thing at that stage, I would say.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. So I know we've kind of spent a little bit of time talking about your diagnosis journey. Just want to understand a little bit more about, you as a person. And, we like to kind of close these interviews out with, what do you think your personal superpower is? And just highlight that and kind of have a moment of positivity as we close this out.
I would say my superpower is actually I think I'm a really good mediator. So I'm a middle child and
Okay, awesome.
of five. So imagine like how
Oh,
five
wow. Okay.
on a not five kids, sorry, but my family is of five.
Okay.
So imagine like five on a dice. Sorry? Yeah, yeah, man. It can be tough. It can be tough. What it does is it arms you with these tools to like when everyone's rowing, I'm like, okay, I hear what you're saying. And I hear what you're saying, and you as well. And for some reason, it's always been as a kid, I just would like resolve people's arguments or like help them like with their arguments.
That's
And I think
fantastic.
I would probably say that.
Awesome. Yeah, I know it's a little bit of a quirky last question, but I
I
think
like
it's
it.
really important to eliminate how much strength people do have and in all unique kinds of ways. So I love that. Is there anything we didn't ask but should have maybe brought up for the group today?
No, I mean, look, I had a lovely time talking to you guys, and that's it really. Like, just yeah,
Yeah.
talking to
Well,
you.
really appreciate the time. It's wonderful to talk to you as always. And, certainly love, obviously, the opportunity to get to know a little bit more about your story. Jameisha's wonderful. Her content is wonderful. So please go, follow her at You Look Okay to Me. And definitely check out her blog. And yeah, we really wish you all the best and I hope we'll be in contact again soon. So thanks so much.